Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi.
Hello.
How was lunch?
Yummy.
Good. Excellent.
Good? Okay. It's a pleasure having you here. My name is Robert Janssen. I have some of our colleagues from Brazil here, from Act Mines. I have Bob Hartman, Jose Alba. And we also have some visitors, collaborators from Latin America, from Costa Rica. I'd like to point them out as well. They'll want to see how Brazil presents itself. And before there's more doubts, I want to clarify what Brasil IT is. And Brasil IT is just a brand name of the government's program to showcase the best-of-breed Brazilian IT companies who are already active in this market, such as Act Mines. So, who has been to Brazil? Manish, you've been to São Paulo and Campinas.
São Paulo.
São Paulo, I have news for you. You have to go back. You haven't been to Brazil yet. You haven't gone to Rio.
Yeah, no. That was business is pleasure.
I want to go to Rio.
Okay. So, like I said, Brasil IT is the government's export promotion program. It's divided in 16 different clusters. So you have aviation, agribusiness, shoe, leather manufacturing, mining, embedded software, outsourcing, finance, oil and gas, and it goes on. Some of these skill sets are present in the companies that you can see, and we encourage you to come and visit us at our booth 209 on the show floor. Okay? So, why go there? Well, we are taking off. Brazil has been in the spotlight recently for some time. And if we look at a particular criteria, which people are not accustomed to, I'm half American, half Brazilian, and I often hear in this market, a lot of people talk about Brazil and not really understand the sheer size which that country represents. So what we did, we combined 3 criteria in one single slide. Land mass, over 4 million square kilometers. Population size, over 200 million people. And GDP, over $3 trillion. Only 3 countries match those criteria in one single snapshot. And that's US, China, and Brazil. Now when you look at what that does and try to take that into a situation where most multinationals are on the ground and have been there for over 40, 50 years. And what that does, what that represents, is that it translates into embedding business best practices on the ground. This is what we inherited as the main legacy of these multinationals on the ground in Brazil. Furthermore, most of them operate their South American hubs from Brazil as well. But when we look at outside IT a little bit, some of the demographics that people don't realize, that we are one of the top manufacturers in several key areas. Who has traveled recently on American Eagle? Air Canada. Well, you've flown Brazilian aircraft. You've flown Embraer. And people don't realize that Brazil today is one of the top aircraft manufacturers and commercials. So there's a long list of things there. So keep on going, and what we like to point out is the following. At the end of the day, most of you probably have a project that you're looking to see if there's a vendor who can match those needs that you have. We like to say that that's a problem-solving approach. And problem-solving in technology, well, technology is a whole bunch of zeros and ones grouped together for a common sense or common intelligence or outcome that we need. But at the end of the day, what you have behind those zeros and ones is people. And people don't realize that, and I say this as an American, the United States is not a melting pot. The United States is a big, diverse immigration influence, but siloed. A true melting pot is Brazil, where all the races were blended pretty much, and anyone in this room can carry a Brazilian passport. And that's why it's the most expensive in the black market. The largest Japanese community outside Japan is in Brazil. The largest Italian community outside Italy is in Brazil. The largest German community outside Germany is in Brazil. The largest Polish, the largest Lebanese, and it goes on and on. There was a study conducted by the Business Review Institute in 2006. They went out to study the mixes of the races. And conclusion, the most mixed race on the planet is the Brazilian race. And translating that into what that means to you, we say the following. Paper is wonderful, right? Paper can take anything and everything. So we write our project and the paper looks beautiful. When you roll that out and you start finding out, oh, this is not working. But that over there is very important. I got to put into it. So there are adjustment phases that you need to do. Well, now I have geographical dispersed teams with distinct cultures. And I have to bring them back all to the same common ground of language of this new adjustment of my project. And this is where we say we have a very good value proposition because we have no cultural barriers. Everyone will be able to come to that same new common ground, but some will take more, some will take less time. So if you, ladies and gentlemen, were to ask us, what is your value proposition in a single silver bullet? I would say, hit the ground running. There's no cultural element that will come into play that we cannot address because we absorb all the cultures. There's actually, point out here, an interesting story. My friend Jill, who looks a lot more Brazilian than I do, but if he or I had to undergo spleen transplant, we cannot come to this country or go to Europe. There's no spleen compatibility. The genetic code in the Brazilian race has changed so much, melded so much, that we only find compatibility locally in Brazil. So, moving forward, we say the following. If you like to illustrate, and I'm going to talk a little about the innovation, but before that, I like to illustrate this cultural element into a little story that I'd like to tell. And I hope that none of you have been to this event. Who has been to Midside before? Who has heard a pizza story before? Good. Who likes pizza? Everyone? Yeah, raise your hands. I like pizza too, and if you like pizza thin crust like I do, I strongly recommend when you go to San Francisco, you go to North Beach Pizza. It's in the North Beach district. It's a single shop owned by a good guy called John. And every time I have a property in Monterey, California, I live in Rio as well, so I keep on the shuttle. And every time I stop in San Francisco, I make a stop over at John's, over at North Beach Pizza. Last time I was there, he had his smile pierced to his ear. I said, well, why are you so smiley, John? What happened? He said, Robert, I beat those guys to the punch. I said, who did you beat? I beat Domino's Pizza, and Pizza says hi. I said, what do you mean? I delivered more amount of pizzas in one single day to the entire Bay Area than they did. I said, come on, John, get out of here. You can't do that. How can you? You're a single store. Those guys are franchise. They have units all over the Bay Area. I said, Robert, I have a very tight delivery team. 40 motorcyclists. Yeah? And where did you find them? He said, we have one criteria to hire them, which is being Brazilian. Oh, how come? What's so special about that? He said, Robert, they bring 3 critical success factors to my business. 1, business expertise. If they can drive those motorcycles like they do down in Sao Paulo, they can drive them anywhere else. They can even beat the rich guys of Mumbai. 2, reliability. They're not tied to a 9-to-5 job or to a job description. They're committed to getting things done. And 3, Robert, flexibility. Those guys, it doesn't matter what unforeseen event happens in the front line, they take care of it right then and there. They don't bring back to me a problem. They tell me what solution they gave. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I ask you to bring those 3 critical success factors into your own projects, into the own challenges you have right now. Don't you need business expertise? Don't you need reliability and commitment and flexibility and creativity? Well, that's embedded in the cultural DNA in Brazil. This is why we see our value proposition, besides all the technical skills that we have on the ground, is to hit the ground running. If you want to talk about technical skills, largest mainframe installed base worldwide outside the United States, Brazil. The largest Java community worldwide outside the United States, Brazil. So if you go to Java, all open source, all the way up to mainframe, you're going to find a very good technical staff. So what we say, what makes a difference, is the people behind it. And this is where we believe we can bring value. In the boardroom earlier, I was asked about data entry. And they had 60 people in China doing data entry. Just simple data entry for insurance policies. He said, do you do that in Brazil? I said, no, we do not. We are about value added. We have over 50 strong economic sectors in Brazil. So there's a lot of industry-wide expertise. And when you're developing projects that are into your industry, you want to make sure that the people that are hired understand what they're developing for. Some of the segments in which we are involved in, right now, these are very high profile because of the ongoing coming World Cup, Summer Olympics, third largest oil reserve discovered off the shore of Rio de Janeiro. So there's a lot of movement for infrastructure building, a lot of movement for upgrading all the systems. These are the companies that I'd like you to come by and see at our booth at 209. Some of them are very specific. AppMind, which you see here, they are in IT service development, but in a very single space where they want to be able to actually integrate with their customers and be a strategic partner, not just a vendor. Right? So they want to understand exactly what is the core and the need of their business so they can be integrated to that. As a matter of fact, I'd like to point out here something that I think is a benefit to all. I was a couple of years back in India, NASCOM, and the gentleman who was the CIO for CSC, and CIO means not Chief Information Officer yet, Chief Innovation Officer. And he said, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, going forward, we only have to really focus on two things. One, customer intimacy. And that doesn't mean I will know the CEO's wife's birthday and send her a birthday card. That means I understand more of his business than he actually does. And two, thought leadership, innovation. Right? And there's a lot of innovation going on in Brazil right now because of the current atmosphere. So Brazilian government is putting a lot of money and effort and public policy to promote innovation. Myself, as half American, half Brazilian, I'm always going on the bridge. And looking at the United States, I did cross-country twice, hitchhiking, in my young age. And I was astonished then, early 80s, that we could go from San Francisco to New York, and it didn't matter what size city you went through, it all had the same economic development. You saw the same brand, you saw the Targets, the Walmarts, the 7-Elevens. The cities were smaller and less traffic, but yet everything was pretty much even. Well, I associated that, obviously, to the railroad, the gold rush, the 49ers. So we're seeing now that Brazil is living the Brazilian 49ers because of Internet. Internet's becoming pervasive. And an example of that is the most innovative person in Brazil, elected in 2011, is not a Facebook-like wizard or a Google-like wizard, but yes, a native Indian Brazilian from the Amazon jungle who used Google Maps and GPS to map deforestation in the Amazon jungle. So Internet has reached that deep. So Internet for us is becoming the railroad. So right now, Brazil is living the new gold rush. I would like now to turn it to you. This is a two-way street. We would like to learn from you. What are your projects? What are your needs? What are your questions? What we'd like to discuss. Thank you very much. And if you need my contacts, there you are. Who has a project? Better.
I'm working on a few major projects right now. First is the enterprise resource planning. We're rolling that out, and I'm pretty sure you're familiar with that. We're also putting in a 311 call center for you. Just dial the number 311 to get access to any service that the county provides. And the final service is counties that we're actually putting in a statistical model where we take a look at the way the government is operating, seeing how we can make it more efficient. So those are our three major projects right now, in addition to a few others like desktop refresh and building out our data warehouse.
Yeah. ERP is very big in Brazil. SAP shop, Oracle shop. As a matter of fact, I like to tell a funny story about ERP, SAP in Brazil. SAP has a product line for retail, ATT. And basically it's mapping out what's being sold at the point of sale, and then it's taking that information from the distribution center, taking it all the way back to the manufacturing outfit, so it can supply all the components to build whatever they're selling, and bring it back to the point of sale. So it's just a just-in-time process to feed the retail process. Well, a bank in Brazil bought it. What? Retail product? Bank? Well, the largest bank, Banco Itaú. Okay, well, yeah, it makes sense because what he said, listen, I have ATMs and I have branches. Differently from the United States, our banking system is very concentrated. In the United States, there's 18, well, after the financial crisis, it came down to 5,000, but it used to be 8,000 banks in the United States. In Brazil, there's 200. And out of the 200, there's top 40, top 35. So I'm going to use this product to integrate my needs of supplying cash to the ATMs and to the branches. So the guy from Banco Itaú ran into a glitch at the config process, and he had to call tech support. Tech support was in Germany. So he calls the ADT tech support. Yes, I'm calling from Brazil, and I have a problem here with your ADT product on the config. Can you help me out? Sure. Which industry are you in? Oh, we're in the finance. We're a bank. Oh, I'm sorry. We don't make that product for a bank. I'm not one. It's weird. So, okay. I'm going to call the financial help desk in Germany. So there he goes. He calls the financial help desk for SAP in Germany and says, yes, I am a bank, and I am having trouble with the config on one of your products. Which product is it? ADT. Oh, we don't make that for finance or banks. Sorry. Boom, hung up on it. Well, long story short, today ADT is one of the top selling products for the financial industry. So this is also another way of illustrating a little bit of the creativity of how to apply the question of ERP. Yes, SAP's largest Southern Hemisphere Development Center is in Brazil. We actually took part, a little part, in the process of selecting the city which will host that development center, which went to São Leopoldo, Porto Alegre, at the very southern state of Brazil. As far as the call center, this is not an active play for us. Brazil really, our value proposition is more the value added in the development of IT solutions, not in the voice play. There are other, I think Costa Rica is very big in voice. There are other countries in South America that were active in that as well. We did try that in the past, but we found that we have a lot more value to provide because of our deep IT technical skills development.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Yes.
So, trying to understand it, if I wanted to use IT services from Brazil, I would come to you and you would connect me with a technical group within Brazil specific to my needs, or does Brazil IT is that group? I'm trying to understand the relationship.
It's a very good question, and I thank you for it. We are, Outsource Brazil, as a company, an independent company contracted by the government to help them promote this program. And while promoting this program, my hat is Brazil IT. So you can come up to me with whatever questions you have. Who would be the best or the few best targets that you would advise me to reach out to? So I would say at Mines, I would say Stefanini, I would say the guns that would match your needs. And then you would engage directly with them. Okay? Now, if you're looking for an advisory capacity, then it would be a different story. But right now, anything that you would like to do, we call a laser beam matchmake, that means that as Brazil IT, I would provide you that knowledge. And this is pretty much what you'd say we do. We're a laser beam matchmaker.
Are all the offices specifically in Brazil, or do you have presence in the United States?
Well, we actually right now are showcasing the companies that are currently doing business in the States, that have physical presence. We understand for you to show commitment to any given market, you got to have foot in the ground. You got to have people face to face. Although we live in an internet world and we can do a lot of online, but there are certain things that need a face-to-face interaction. And trust you can only build that way. So the companies that we're currently showcasing here are active and have offices in the United States. Like Stephanie, they have 5 offices nationwide. Act Mines is in Pennsylvania. Yeah. And Act Mines handles Janssen & Janssen and other big Fortune 500 companies here. So you can find also companies that belong to the program, Brasil IT program, that have not yet established a footprint here, but in the process of doing so, because they are taught that. They understand that if you want to be really showcase commitment to that market, you got to have foot on the ground. Is that a question coming in?
Oh, yeah, that all.
That's a dial in too. I like it. I know we're online here on the broadcast. Very good.
There, it's off now.
You'll find that Brazilian people are very jokingly, very open, very warm. Anyone going down to Brazil will have a great experience, believe me. We are well received. Manish can say that.
Yep.
Yeah. We're a very happy country, happy people. And we love to do the best we can. And there's never a limit for the best. There's always more we can do. No more questions? No more projects?
Can you back up to the slide that showed the businesses you represented, and maybe just give us a sentence or two on each
Sure.
one of those? Just so we
Okay.
have an idea.
Act Minds, I'm going to let Bob take that one, but I'll let it for the last so you can close. Aura Software is a help desk solution, IT service help desk. Control, they are ERP, but they are very focused ERP for the food and beverage distribution business. They handle Red Bull worldwide. Compasso, they are here in Texas. They are a shop out of Brazil, but they are Oracle services stack, focused only on the Oracle stack. Navita, mobile, MDM, mobile device management. They have the American Airlines account. If you have a mobile in American Airlines, it's developed by Navita. And Stefanini, they're an IT services company. They're our largest company in Brazil, $750 million. You might see them here because they have their own boardrooms. I have the Director of Business Development here, Maria Sullivan.
Hi, how you doing? We actually have 3 offices in the United States. We're in Southfield, Michigan, Davenport, Iowa, and Richmond, Virginia. Thank you.
And, well, please, talk about Act Minds.
Thanks, Ron. We're Act Minds. I'm Bob Hartman out of the Pennsylvania area. I actually live up in the Poconos. Joined by my colleague, Gil Sebra, who's out of Rio de Janeiro. Act Mind's been in business since, well, about 30 years now. Been in the U.S. since 1994. U.S. corporation out of Philadelphia with major accounts in, again, as Robert said, applications development, and doing just about every technology other than mainframe COBOL. We're the largest mobility applications developer in Brazil. Getting a lot of demand for mobility applications today. Everybody's going mobile with iPhones, iPads, Android, all that. So we're the largest one in Brazil that's providing those kinds of services out of 4 different development centers in Brazil, Sao Paulo, and that underlying area around Sao Paulo, Campinas, Gilzão, Rio, and a couple other cities down in Brazil. Again, mostly applications development, offshore. Anybody outsourcing today? Any applications development? Anything? What kind of things are you outsourcing today?
Mainly some RPG development out of India.
Okay, okay. How about
Kevin?
Mobile app development in India.
mobile app development out of India? India, where's India? I'm 100% American. Shil's 100% Brazilian. So we blend well together. My first experience with Brazil, just to give you a little background how I got involved. I was doing a big project for MCI. They had bought the domestic and long distance telephone operator out of Rio de Janeiro, a company called Embratel. And they asked me to go down there and set up a PMO for their CIO. So I went down there and did a study for them for 2 weeks. And when I climbed on the airplane in Atlanta, I had no idea what I was going to face. I had never heard Brazil and IT mentioned in the same sentence. I was an old EDS guy, did most of my work in Europe. But I went down there, I did a 2-week study for the CIO on the State of the Union. He was very concerned that with all the projects going on, he wasn't getting, oh, there he is. He wasn't getting the full story on project status, so he said, I think I need to set up a PMO with some good reporting mechanisms and everything, so I know everything that's going on. And I ended up down there for 8.5 months. And truthfully, as an American, I was just absolutely astounded at the quality of IT services that they were being provided by their Brazilian IT vendors in the Rio area. They just blew me away with their expertise, great productivity, really good quality, and I was basing this on, all of my experience with EDS. And I came back after 8.5 months, and I was a contractor to MCI, and my contract was just about up. And Brazil IT approached me and said, we'd like to bring you down and chat with you a little bit about maybe where you could help us here and setting up strategy, things like that. And I've been with them for about 6 years now, helping in this area. So personally, having had strategic partners in India, Mexico, Venezuela, personally, I definitely encourage you to put Brazil on your radar because I think you'd have a really good experience. We've got customers in the U.S. We've got one in South Bend, Indiana, who started with one .NET resource 4 years ago, and currently we've got a staff of about 16 working down in Brazil doing .NET development activities for them.
So let me finish up giving you also the testimony of another gentleman who's astounded by our capability of innovation in Brazil. And the innovation he's going to talk about was in 1970. Oops, how's that work? No? There we go. I got a hard water.
Imagine if you could stop being dependent on foreign oil. Brazil did it. They made a simple change to their cars, switched to ethanol, grown from their own crops. And it's 32% cheaper than gas. Now, with Proposition 87, California can lead the way to our own energy independence. With Prop 87, we can switch to cleaner fuels, wind, and solar power, and free ourselves from foreign oil. If Brazil can do it, so can California.
And guess what? He was making reference to a biofuel car, meaning either gasoline or ethanol. Since then, we have launched the Triflex. Now you can buy, on the switch of the dashboard, a car that can run either on gas, ethanol, or natural gas. And this is why Brazil is perceived as being ahead of the curve with the environmental issues as well. Ladies and gentlemen, to finish up, we kindly ask you that you vote for Brasil IT as one of the top presentations that you've received. Thank you very much.